Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey, welcome to the show. Happy to be here. Kinda, sorta. I know when last we spoke, I said I might not do the show today because I was just in one of those moods where I couldn't take any more of it. I didn't want to talk about any of it. And of course, I woke up this morning to just more of it. What the hell? But I'm in a slightly better state of mind, so I can do it. Breaking news is that apparently they've grabbed someone, a suspect, in I don't know if they're saying this is the guy who set the pipe bombs in front of the Democratic National Committee and the Republican National Committee's offices the night before, I believe, January 6th. It diverted an awful lot of law enforcement attention to those two buildings. The pipe bombs did not detonate. And it's been, over 4 years? And they couldn't seem to get a handle on it, and apparently they've got somebody who, of course, remains innocent until proven otherwise. But that is a novel concept to this Department of Justice and this administration. Anyway, we'll see what that ends up amounting to. Without a doubt, the best story in the news today is the drunk raccoon. Made my day, truly. The pictures. I mean, I don't know. I suppose some of you have never been in that position yourself. I have. Face down, arms splayed, feet splayed, next to a toilet on a tile floor. Any of you ever been in that situation? Yeah. Well, yeah, I have. And there was something so funny about seeing the raccoon, who, astonishingly, they said, was fine and dandy about an hour and a half after they found him, face down. He'd broken into a liquor store and, had some fun. I think it's pretty well known now that animals often do like to be intoxicated. I offer up catnip, for instance. And also, I've talked about this before, but I once interviewed a psychopharmacologist who had written a book, and he said he had little doubt that the way humans first found hallucinogens and other plants and things that might change their consciousness, that they found them often through observing animals going after them and then behaving a little strangely. Birds going after fermented berries and whatever. Anyway, I love, if you haven't seen the picture of the raccoon face down. So, anyway, that was my favorite story. It so beats the serious stuff, which is enough to, put you face down. Seriously. God almighty. I do want to shout out what I thought was the best headline I saw today. I have a particular what's the word? What is the word? What is the word when you're like oh, I hate this. I hate that when that happens. It's a word, absolutely. Admiration. Jesus H. Admiration for people who are creative enough to distill the essence of a complex story and make it in just a few words and sometimes entertaining. I thought this was well done. It is punish, I think, but it's about the Pope, our Pope, the American Pope, the Midwestern Pope, our guy. Seems like a good guy, too. It's our Pope who, as I'm sure you know, went on his first international trip. And this was a story analyzing how he did in his first foray into being, a head of state, actually, a powerful figure on the world political stage. And the headline is, New Pope Plays It Close to the Vestments. Pretty good, huh? Plays it close to the vestments. Because, it's a little play on words that works. And also gives the essence of what the analysis is, that this Pope, unlike the Pope he replaced, is more sort of self-effacing and mild-mannered and not given to showy displays. He's Midwestern nice. That's what he is. So Pope Leo plays it close to the vestments. There was another story on the front page of the New York Times that to me epitomizes the sort of horrific, everything I hate about sort of the culture, the commercialization of the culture, the laziness, anyway, let's see what this headline, nothing clever about it. Next bonanza for diet drugs could be pets. Yeah. So it turns out that the pharmaceutical companies, rather than spending time finding something that makes some sense, see lots of money in making essentially Wegovy for your dog. Because, again, dogs and cats didn't ever have an obesity problem. And it's very recently, this spate of fat cats. It is an era of fat cats in more ways than one, but fat cats, fat dogs. And they've gotten that way, of course, because of the overindulgent society that we live in, right? Every fat cat or fat dog is on the owner. Now, my dog is definitely overweight. I don't think I've been told he does not qualify as fat, but he's packing on a pound or two he probably shouldn't, and that's on me because I can't deny him, right? So we fatten up our pets that we love, knowing that it is detrimental to their health. And then rather than stop this absurd behavior, we rely on, and I'm sure all these animals are they're already on antidepressants because they live with us. Anti-anxiety drugs. It's unbelievable. So there's already a pilot study, and this one has to do with obese cats, and they're going to just put a little chip in them that'll time release for 6 months. And the quote I read, so you insert the capsule under the skin and then you come back 6 months later and the cat has lost the weight. It's like magic. Well, if this is like Ozempic or Wegovy for cats, the minute that insert runs out of its drug, the cat will gain the weight right back, right? I don't know. It's just an ever... Ugh, I don't know. Don't like it. Hey, I saw a wonderful documentary last night. Maybe you've seen it before me, but I happened upon it on what? Apple Plus. You know why? I went to Apple Plus because I'm addicted to this show Pluribus, and I just found it a day or two ago, and of course I'm doing what I now have. Again, it's part of our culture. You know, I'm gorging, binging, because I can. Unlike the old days where you had to wait a week from episode to episode, and I'm gorging and gorging, and last night I sat down all excited and I said, yeah, play me episode 6. And it didn't. And I just got so freaked. I said, what? What? And, you know, it turns out, of course, that they're actually releasing this thing one episode at a time. How dare they? We're so used to having control of how and when we see things. But, yeah. So I'm just saying, again, it's this convenience thing. I was with friends the other day, and one of them said, so I think it was a belt. And I went on Amazon, and right there I start biting my tongue. I'm saying to myself, just shut up, shut up, shut up. I went on Amazon and ordered it. And do you know I had that belt by the afternoon, within hours. And everybody was saying, oh, isn't it just so wonderful? So, yeah, we are so conditioned to expect immediate gratification. And this does not lead to something good. I can assure you of that. Does not. So there was something actually good when I hit that wall on Pluribus. And I'll have to wait. Damn it. But so I went looking for something else to watch, and I came upon a documentary about a guy I always had the hots for, an actor, Sidney Poitier. And it's called Sidney. And I got to tell you, it is really wonderful. It is wonderful. It is as wonderful as he was. Really a remarkable man in so many ways. A true man of character, a principled man, a great actor, an activist, just a fine, fine human being. And then there's just looking at him. Whoa. Sidney Poitier, born into total poverty, and just never, also born into a totally black environment on a small island where, did he say there were any white people? I don't know. I mean, everybody looked like him. They had no running water. They had no anything, that very little schooling. But he was a happy guy and comfortable in his own skin. And then family moves to Nassau. And while Nassau was like 80% black, there were a whole lot more white folks. But still, the culture seemed mostly black, and he felt, again, still comfortable. But then his father shipped him off to the United States when he was a teen. And it is just eye-opening. God knows it was for him to find out that in the United States, he was not who he thought he was. He was not worthy. He was not respectable. And it's just mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. It's important to see. And what a wondrous being. So anyway, Sydney. It was produced by Oprah Winfrey, who also was in love with him. But she actually got to know him. Damn. I did have, I have 1 degree of separation in that he studied with a man who I think I've talked about, who was responsible for me heading off to New York to attend the Neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater, an actor named Paul Mann. And he had an acting studio and taught a whole slew of the great black actors of that period. Ruby Dee, Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, and on and on and on. Anyway, and he was a son of a bitch, just want to say. Okay, so Sydney, I'm just putting it out there for your enjoyment. And it's a good history lesson. For those of us of a certain age, it takes you back through the civil rights era. Yeah. And it makes me laugh when I mean, stop and think again. I've said this before. How often you hear a politician in this country say violence has no place in America? Oh my God. We are such an extraordinarily violent nation with such a long-standing stream of bigotry and hate. Yeah, extraordinary. All of a sudden that turned dark. So Trump pardoned a Democrat. But, the Democrat was a crook. So it turns out that if you're a Democratic crook, he has, he feels some human feeling for you. This Cuellar, is that how it's pronounced? He and his wife taken bribes. Trump thinks he's a fine human being. What I'm Bree, I just saw what you posted. I'm so sorry. Our family cat, Mizo, passed away today. Please hug your pets an extra time today. I'm so sorry. That is the thing about bringing these wondrous beings into our lives. More so than cats, dogs, because cats give you more time. A dog's lifespan can be so short. And cats often, they'll give you, almost 20 years. I knew one who was 23. But you know that if you let them into your heart, they're going to break it at some point because they leave you. I'm really sorry. It's the worst. It is. It's just the worst. I don't know. I look at my guy, and I think I've told you this. We've got a murder-suicide pact. I can't imagine life without him. I mean, I know I lived without him before, but he got me through the isolation of the pandemic. He's there with me. I mean, we are joined at the hip. And he was always so much younger than me, but man, he's catching up. He's almost essentially as old as me, and he's looking like me. He's graying. I can tell one of his legs is a little stiff. And I just can't, bear it. Oh, Bree. Mizo only had 5 years. Oh, that's rough. That's rough. My last 2 cats were short-lived as well. It's rough. Damn. I really think they're one of the best things of being alive. I mean, are you like me? If I walk by a dog or a cat, I always say hi. I always try to strike up a conversation, which is not necessarily something I would do with a human. But, man, animals. Yeah. Well, really sorry. Oh. Okay, I'm going to have to change the subject. Oh, no, but I was speaking, though, about Trump pardoning this Democrat. What do you think? Is he going to end up pardoning Menendez? I mean, is doing time for taking bribes? Same thing. So why wouldn't, wow. So why wouldn't, I bet the Menendez folks now, I mean, I bet ever since the news came out about Cuellar, I bet they got people trying to whisper in Trump's ear about Menendez. Richard is saying the word pet seems so inadequate. Yeah, it also seems, that's why some people call them companions. My animal companion. And they don't like the idea of my, master and mistress or, whatever. They trying to keep it on a more, give them their due respect. Yeah. It's unsurprising that Trump, by the way, is one of the few presidents I can think of in my lifetime that doesn't have a pet. Because why would he? He wouldn't. I mean, in any way, be able to bond with an animal. He can't bond with a human. But I mean, animals are easier to bond with, but he can't even bond with an animal. Oh, God. Okay, one of the things Trump did in the last 24 hours that just pissed me off, and I'm just going to note it. It is so indicative of his choose one, Cullen. Just choose one. Indicative of his, narcissism, indicative of his neediness, indicative of his insanity. That there is a building now in Washington, D.C., a big, relatively new building. I think it was built in this century. It's a new one. And it was built to house the United States Institute of Peace. It's essentially been shuttered because when Trump came in January and unleashed Elon, one of the places they went after right away was, of course, the United States Institute of Peace, along with the USAID and all those kinds of woke places. And they pretty much shut it down. Fired almost everybody. So it was just a shell of a building standing there. Big building. Apparently in the last day or two, work people were seen appending Trump's name to the exterior of that building on the side and on the front. So it now says Trump United States Institute of Peace. Unbelievable. Un-effing believable. Artist saying, when you become overwhelmed with the shit show news of the day, follow your brother's command to his daughter. Avert your eyes. You know, and Art said, I haven't laughed so hard in a while. I had never heard that story before, but I was thinking of it again this morning, early morning. I woke up way too early. And I was thinking of it again. Avert your eyes. And how that little kid would not stared him down. But it's such a classic example of, yes, my brother's parenting. Jesus. Avert your eyes. Oh, God. Yeah. So, I don't know. What do you think? Menendez? Is he going to get a pardon? I don't think so. I don't. I don't know why. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? So, what else do I have here? Hey, I got to tell you, I have been driving an illegal car for 2 months. I've never done that. I've never not had my, the right sticker, the inspection done on time. And because mine ran out right when I was having surgeries and, blah, 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 I wasn't driving. I wasn't. And then it's just, I got, whatever. I've made it. Every time I drive it, because I don't know what happens if they get you. You pay a fine, right? I mean, if you're a black person, you definitely get pulled over and shot. But old white ladies, I don't think, get pulled over for taillights out or expired inspection stickers. But anyway, I I'm getting it done tomorrow. So watch, because I do have to go out once today. Watch me get hit today. Just saying. But yeah, avert your eyes. It's a good. It's good. It is good. Okay, what else I got here? Do you think Hegseth is toast? I think he's starting to head in that direction without a doubt. They're gonna have to throw that one overboard, I think. Because you even got, my God, you got Republicans holding hearings. You got even one Republican calling for him to step aside. Yeah, I got a feeling at some point. Hey, and speaking of that, I was going to say Trump doesn't like, not controlling the narrative. Can I just say something? Epstein. What happened? Why aren't we? I know there were some Democrats put some pictures out the other. What? Weren't we supposed to be seeing more? And now we've got all this, Hegseth crap and this other stuff, which has gotten our attention of late. And the media has, I don't know, how do I know what media is doing? I barely watch, I only read, but I haven't seen much about Epstein. I don't know. A fascinating story in the Atlantic about our governor. Have you seen it? I'm sure that our governor ain't thrilled by it. I'm sure Kamala Harris is not thrilled by it. But it is quite clear that our governor, Josh Shapiro, would like to wring her neck. Yeah. There's no love there, coming or going, and to see what the way it's framed in the Atlantic article is really fascinating, because Josh Shapiro, he might be a very popular guy. He's also very sort of, I don't know, hard to sort of feel like you know. To me, he feels that way. I don't know. And so there are efforts by some to, flesh him out. And in the case of Kamala Harris, the fleshing out was negative. And it's from her book that she wrote. And in regard to choosing who her running mate would be, let's just say it didn't go well when she and Josh met. They'd known each other, but the reporter for the Atlantic writes a really compelling story. I'll just give you the first paragraph. It is a rare thing to see Josh Shapiro sweat. For all the grief the Pennsylvania governor gets for imitating Barack Obama, the staggered cadence, the side of the mouth delivery for effect. I've never noticed that myself, but I've heard it many times. But both Obama and he, their essential shared trait is self-possession. If Pennsylvania's governor has a superpower, it is an unflappability that allows him to stay cool and composed and to communicate precisely what he wants to communicate most of the time. And then he goes on to say that when he read to Shapiro some lines from Harris's book about her meeting with him, back to the reporter, the man I observed over the next several minutes was unrecognizable. Gone was his equilibrium. He moved between outrage and exasperation as I relayed the excerpts. Harris had accused him, in essence, of measuring the drapes in the vice president's residence, even inquiring about featuring Pennsylvania artists in the vice presidential residence, of insisting, quote, that he would want to be in the room for every decision. And more generally, she accused him of hijacking the conversation when she interviewed him for the job, to the point where she had to remind him that he would not be co-president. And Shapiro's listening to this, and he goes berserk. He says, it's complete and utter bullshit. Just blatant lies. Our composed, self-possessed governor just went berserk. So, the article goes on to say that in interviewing other people who were aware of the meeting and what had happened on both sides, he goes on to say that there was some truth in the fact that they clearly didn't go well. It said the two skipped past any semblance of small talk, and Shapiro proceeded to interview Harris rather than the other way around. Now, that would not play well. And that would have the appearance of sort of the man taking control when she was the one with the power. So I can see if she bristled, and he did not say that he didn't start asking her questions. He said this: I did ask a bunch of questions. Wouldn't you ask questions if someone was talking to you about forming a partnership and working together? Yeah, so, oh, wow, this article is a riot. I mean, it did not go well. And I, frankly, from reading it, I don't think either of them come off well. You know, what you got here are two huge egos, right? You don't get to where they are. Just two huge egos. Watchman says it would be very hard for Trump to get rid of Hegseth. I don't know. Okay. Milton says the Department of Justice has until the 24th of this month, Christmas Eve, to release the files, the Epstein files. The law passed by Congress gives 30 days after the passage. Gives them 30. Okay, sorry. So that's why. But I thought when Trump signed it, he made a thing about, well, what do I know? Anyone who thinks that whatever they release has not been tampered with. Jeez. Anyway, I really, really, really did. If you have access to the Atlantic, that's a good one. I mean, the Atlantic is, without a doubt, my favorite magazine. So it had this great article, and of course, it had another great article that was getting a lot of attention yesterday about Hegseth, because it was the Atlantic's editor, Jeffrey Goldberg, who was invited into that top secret classified meeting when they were about to attack Yemen, right? Signal Gate. And they had another story out about the fact that the Pentagon's Inspector General, which I have to say I was shocked to hear that the Pentagon still had an Inspector General. I thought one of the things that Trump and all of them did was get rid of all the Inspector Generals. So there'd be nobody to, write reports on their illegalities. I know Hegseth got rid of all the JAGs pretty much. So apparently there is an Inspector General at the Pentagon. I don't suppose he'll be there much longer. And they have a report that's come out today that is blistering in regard to Hegseth and the Signalgate thing, and how clearly anybody else to whom the law applies, as opposed to Trump or his buddies, would be in big trouble for doing what he had done. Hang on. No. I keep coming up. I'm sorry, the raccoon keeps showing up. It says the information Hegseth shared in that chat I'm sure you know this, right? Could have put American lives in danger, national security at risk. It includes. I mean, he was giving out the precise times that the fighter pilots would attack their targets on an unsecured line. Jesus H. And they say if anybody in the government would have shared such information on a commercial platform, I mean, they would be gone immediately, and undoubtedly they would be prosecuted as well. So, I mean, it makes quite clear what we all know and have seen evidence of on a daily basis, that there's one set of rules for all of us. There are laws for all of us. And there are none for Trump and his buddies. So there's that. Milton again. The FBI reported over 3,500 overtime hours for agents assigned to editing, censoring, and redacting the Epstein files. So, can you imagine 3,500? They know everything that's in them. And we ain't going to. I mean, the very stuff we want to know, we ain't going to. Huh. Oh, well, okay. I want to see how much time I have here. Okay. I want to get into something that it's something I'd read, essentially an interview with Ezra Klein interviewing a guy named what's his name, Ganz, Ganz. He's a I don't know, how do you describe who he is? They say a historian historian and political theorist, John Gans. And this was a while back, but I've sort of hung on to it because it's an interesting piece about the right, the fringe, the Fuentes folks who had been fringe, moving toward the centers of power. And it's something that I've noted before. But this guy is particularly interesting about it. And what made me think about it again was that, what is the name of this thing? The Manhattan Institute, which is, last time I looked, I think, a conservative think tank. They have done a poll, and to say that it's disquieting is a bit of an understatement. They say that their poll shows that close to 20% of Republican supporters and Trump supporters are essentially anti-Jew. And that they identify as, they will they will say that, unashamedly. And 40% of them think the Holocaust was greatly exaggerated or did not happen, as historians describe it. And that number goes way up when you look at Republican Hispanic voters. The number on Holocaust deniers there is 77%, according to the Manhattan Institute, and 66% of black GOP voters, and 54% of male GOP voters under the age of 50. The Manhattan Institute defined an anti-Jewish Republican as any respondent who either self-identified as such or believed that the Holocaust was exaggerated. 12% of Republican voters describe themselves as having hostility to Jews. Anyway, on and on and on and on. But the thing is that the anti-Jews in the Republican Party are typically, get this, they are younger, they are disproportionately male, and they are more likely to be college educated. And they are more racially diverse. By the way, the Institute looked at Democrats too and found slightly higher levels of anti-Jewish sentiment among Democrats. About the same, 20%, but a little bit more. Okay? So I got to tell you, Jews who have any understanding of our history are sleeping with one eye open now. We've seen this thing before. So I want to go back to that interview because they were talking about Fuentes and the Groypers, and they're all Holocaust deniers. They're all anti-Jew. But then he said something that really fascinated me, and I know it's true. He says, in regard to Tucker Carlson, who, by the way, is widely believed, perhaps, to be the next leader of MAGA. Some say Marjorie Taylor Greene. A lot say Tucker Carlson. Now, Carlson has clearly, in the last few years, turned to open anti-Semitism. And then having Fuentes on, like he did, and unapologetically. But this is what this Gans character says about that, and I think he is so on the money. He says, I believe that anti-Semitism functions as an epoxy for elites who don't really want social changes that would affect their prominence, and in fact, who want to shore up their prominence and their power. And to do that, they need mass support. So they need a narrative, they need a story, they need a target. And economic disposition is always a winner. To tell the masses, that their economic dispossession and the world that doesn't seem to make sense to them anymore, that is not concerned with their interests, is because of the Jews. And he says, so the way it works is anti-Semitism always works to create a coalition. Always. And a coalition of elites and then what he calls the gutter coalition. So, the ragtag anti-Semites, and then the elite, the Charles Lindberghs, the Henry Fords, the Tucker Carlsons. And it's just the go-to. And then I think the most chilling thing he says is, I think people need to be much more afraid of what's coming next. Now, after Trump. Of J.D. Vance in particular. Because let's just say Trump dies in office, or let's just say, he is the vice president, right? And Gans says, I think the view many Republicans hold is that Vance is quietly, functionally, where Carlson is. That Vance is Groyper Fuentes adjacent. And I believe that too, without a doubt. By his public utterances and, So watch as these things play out. The anti-Semitism, the low-life anti-Semitism that's always there. And then the elite, the aristocratic anti-Semitism, which is always there. The waspy anti-Semitism. The anti-Semitism that wouldn't let Jews, join their clubs. Those are the elite. But those guys can get political mass by using anti-Semitism to appeal to the lower classes. Always works. So I'm just saying. I happened to have tea yesterday with a young rabbi who has spent a lot of time in Israel, and oh my God, what he told me about the tensions between Israelis. Whoa. It's just something else. But he also said that he was at a convention not too long ago, and that Jewish leadership in, the Netherlands, Norway? I forget. There were 3 countries. I know the Netherlands was one. That the few Jews that are still in those countries are actually, he said, making exit plans. And I said, well, you mean really? Like, okay, have your bags packed and here's where we're going? And he said, yes. There are whole countries where the Jewish population is at that level. And I said, well, where are they going? And he said, I guess, where the hell are you going to go? I mean, it's everywhere. And he said, well, mostly they go to Israel. So he and I agreed that all the Jews running to Israel is not a good idea, because all it takes is one Iranian bomb to finish us off. In some respects, we're always safer if we're scattered. But I got to tell you, it doesn't make the news, but major synagogues all over the country are being picketed, targeted. Jews going just to worship on a Friday night or a Saturday are running gauntlets. And this is happening in the United States of America, which from the time of George Washington, who explicitly made a point of telling Jews that they were welcome. And we have known really a great few hundred years here. But I got to tell you, I do think, unless something pretty drastic happens, that we're heading into something that, anyway. I think a lot of Jews are fearful of speaking of this. Oh, those Jews, they're always whining. Holocaust, Holocaust. Just saying, okay? Those who do not know their history are doomed. And even if they do know their history, they could be doomed. That's all I'm saying. Hey, one great quote that I found, it's apropos of absolutely nothing, but just so we don't end on this topic. It's a quote from John Kenneth Galbraith. Remember him? The urbane economist. I remember always thinking he just looked like the perfect wasp. I mean, he was a handsome wasp. I hope my memory's not wrong. I mean, I haven't seen a picture of him in 100 years, but whatever. John Kenneth Galbraith. But he was, from what I understand, a smart cookie. Anyway, he said this. It's just a little, very smart thing. And for such a serious fellow, funny. He said, the only function of economic forecasting is to make astrology look respectable. And I love that, because I have always felt that economic forecasting is so much mumbo jumbo that all of the brain trusts of Wall Street and stuff, I don't know. I think they all like talk to each other. It's like some kind of bizarre echo chamber, and it's not like the truth rises from it. I don't know, and I don't know. I don't go near it. I don't like playing that ridiculous game. But I just love it, because it's the way I've always felt about it. The only function of economic forecasting is to make astrology look respectable. Don't mean to offend any of you folks who read your horoscope. So there's that, and that's it for me. And oh my God, I'm done. Okay, I'm done, and hope you guys have a good rest of your week. And don't get upset because the Steelers are on the. It's not worth it. I'm just saying, it ain't worth it. It's just a game. It's just a game. Just saying. Oh, this is so annoying. Fucking annoying.
Lynn Cullen Live. Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.